All right, what's going on, dragons? Anyway, I don't know why I'm calling you dragons. My
Dragons.
goblins. I don't really know. I haven't decided of a good intro.
I don't know.
Anyway, the
Either
last.
way, here we are.
Anyway, here we are. It's again Thursday.
Oh.
Today we're going to be talking about, since we just talked about being a dungeon master, which most of you guys won't be. Most people will be players, right? I figured let's talk about being a player, right? This is on our little thing of going through Dungeons and Dragons, so we're gonna keep on this a little bit, okay? So today we're gonna be about being a player, what you need, how to be the best player you can be. We'll kind of go over that, right? So we're gonna talk about that.
Okay.
First of all, and again, I'll make videos about exactly what you need and stuff, but we're gonna kind of just talk about it today on the podcast. Today, things that you need. You're starting as a new player. You're going in. You're not gonna need a whole lot, right? You really don't need a whole lot. You can add a lot of things to it, right, and make it difficult and make it more fun maybe for you. But you really don't need a whole lot. Really, I would say honestly,
be a player.
To be a player.
Okay.
Right. DM different, right? We already kind of talked about that, but to be
Yeah.
a player, you don't really need a whole lot. Really, you only need a couple things. You need a character sheet. That's probably your most important, right? This is one right here. Got all your little modifiers, which we'll eventually do a video on. Talking about your strength, your dexterity, your con, all that stuff like that. You got all your arcane stuff, your armor class, how many, how much health you have, stuff like that. So this is mostly for you, right? Your DM will kind of already know a little bit, but obviously it's a little bit on the honor system. So it's just really you to have your character so you can immediately check on it, know what you're doing. You can find ones online, which is great. I don't think it's a bad thing. Here's my thing. I'm a little cheap, if you guys don't know already. So I wouldn't pay for it. I would just you can download. You can go on the D&D website for free to print them with all your garbage on them. I would do that. A lot of the times in the notes section, I will put things that make my character my character. So if I want to remember that my character is more is wary of certain type of creatures, I'll put that on there, right? Just so that if I am looking at my character sheet, I can remember, and it'll kind of give me little hints. The rest of it's just really for your own thing. So a character sheet I think is really important for you. If you can memorize it, so after I've played for a while, I'll memorize my own stuff. Right? I don't need no paper. I ain't no Beezy, right? I know my thing. But
couldn't you just even get like a piece of paper and just
you honestly, this looks pretty. And honestly, you can print this for free. This is actually a nice high quality paper because this is the one that you guys bought in that little
the little kit.
The little kit. So this is actually nice paper. Mine's just like normal paper. But I'm gonna be honest that I print at work. So don't fire me. That's all right. All 8 people viewing, none of them are my supervisor. So really, you print them, right? It's super cheap. You have your little paper. Honestly, if you write it in pencil, you can use it forever. Again, a lot of times I don't even really need them, but they're kind of nice, right? You'll need
so who is that more important to, the player or the DM?
I would say a little bit of both. So I would say the player mostly needs it because if you get caught going over, you're going to screw yourself, right? Because a DM will now no longer trust you.
Yeah.
But if you go under, you don't want to screw yourself, right? If you're going to kill a dragon, you have the chance to get the last hit. You want to get the last hit.
Yeah.
So I think it just benefits you knowing your character.
Okay, I get it. I see.
So you can even, a lot of times what I'll do. Now look, you can go buy the books for D&D, which if they ever sponsor me, I will tell you to do. But since they don't right now, don't buy them. They're like, dude, legitimately, I should bring one of the books. I'll bring one of the books, and eventually we'll go over how great they are, right? They're expensive. They're like $20 or $30 a book.
What comes in? Is it the same book that we bought to
No.
get us? So this is something else. What are you talking about?
No, these are extras of these are the rules to the game. These
Oh.
are different rules to the game. Here are the classes.
I
Here
didn't
are.
realize there was actually like rules.
Oh yeah. There's rules for sure.
I mean, I guess there. I always thought it was just like a few guidelines. I didn't realize there were rules.
No, there are like rules, and again, they're kind of guidelines because they kind of tell you like, well, don't have to do all these. But yeah, dude, and a lot of the people that I play with, God rest their souls,
They're dead.
no, they're not dead, but they probably should be. No, no, a lot of people I play with, they have every book, and they go through them, and they're like, I'm cheap.
Wow,
On the
that's
D&D
impressive.
website, you can download the PDFs. I mean, everybody's got a phone now. Get your phone out and download it.
Yeah.
Way easier. Honestly, what I do is I get it on my computer, PDF. I print out my character all the way up to level 20. I have the papers printed and ready to go, right? So much easier than people. I mean, a lot of these cats buy books and they're like, well, actually, let me look through. I'm like, I don't even care. I'm like, yeah, let's Google it. It's 2021. Google the goddamn rules. Holy shit. Like,
Or I feel like this is one of those games. It's like Uno. It's not like Uno, but Uno, for example. This my example here is like so many people have played Uno that if you're new to Uno, if you've never played, you're gonna sit down and be like, okay, tell me how to play the game.
yeah.
I feel like
You can
it's
get
kind of the same thing.
if you get in with a bunch of new people, you can kind of delegate that of as far as like you can make it more on the DM to like, oh well, this rule doesn't really matter. Once you start getting into a campaign, you got to start knowing those rules because a lot of guys will try to abuse those rules, which we'll talk about players in general. But and that's what I actually recommend personally if you're a player and you're first starting out. Magic users are probably not the best. If you want to go like a half magic user, like a paladin, stuff like that, way better to go with because wizards, all of a sudden you got spells and you have to know what they do and when they do them. Again, I print them all out and they actually make cards for these. Again, don't spend money though. You can make them on the Word doc. Anyway, they have cards and so you can kind of like, oh hey, it's a fireball. Oh well, this is what it is. Way easier to deal with than doing that. So you need that. You really need. I mean, that's something you need. And these are I would say that there's two things you legitimately need. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts, right? The second
dice
is a little bit of dice. Yes,
I
yeah,
knew
you
it.
know.
I knew it.
So
Everybody, but like Dungeons and Dragons, aside from miniatures, they're known for their dice.
yeah. And so you got the dice. And again, you don't really need a mixture. If you watch like Critical Role, which is a huge D&D YouTube thing, they don't actually use maps. So you don't have to use maps. You can do it all in your head. Kind of like Girls Under 18, but you can do them all in your head. And so you don't need that. But so the dice, it's not just like what we would call a D6. You got to know some of the lingo, right? So this is called a D6, which is a 6-sided die, right? You don't just need that. You need a 20-sided die. That's the most important die of all of them.
Yeah, because that's like whether or not it's a hit, it's a miss, it's whatever.
It's a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
So you need one of these bad boys. Again, something to know if you're a DM. 2, 14, and 8 are on the 20. And 7, 13, and 19 are on the 1. You need to know that because actually I have some cheating dice upstairs that I would use that and I actually I won't show
have
them.
a 1?
No. 2 20s. Now, the only reason I use it is so I had a DM and it was really weird because his girlfriend and me were pretty good friends. So then when he came into it, he got a little bit jealous because we were kind of good friends before. And so he would constantly try to kill me and my character. And so he would cheat and do things a little dirty. So yeah, I rolled a little dirty. It's not the point, right? It's not the point. I rarely use that dice. So don't come at me, okay? Anyway, so just make sure you know as a DM because you don't want people cheating.
No, you don't.
No, you don't.
No.
And then you have...
Can't have them cheaters.
Yeah, exactly. You need a D12, which is you don't really need these. These are ones depending on your character, right? D6s, D8s, all that garbage. A D4, if you've ever stepped on one of these, they freaking hurt like crazy. My daughter stepped one on, and I got to use the whole meme of like, you just took a D4 damage. She did not give a fuck about that at all. she was very much like, yeah, cool, Dad. Pick up your goddamn dice. Yeah, I'm doing a good job parenting. But anyway, so you need.
What's worse, a Lego or a D4
Oh,
dice?
D4. Look at that, dude. It's a triangle of death. You step on that. Oh, dude, it's the worst. Oh, yeah. People don't even know. Now, again, you can keep them in these cute little bags, which is what I have. I like keeping them color-coded because that's the kind of OCD guy I am. But a lot of guys keep them in their Crown Royal bags, right? That's why you go buy Crown Royal.
I thought it was to put your marbles in them.
No,
I did that with my marbles. I guess I never played D&D enough to have dice in.
A lot of guys will do
bags.
they'll bring the Crown Royal bag, and so that's why you always got to one-up them, right? The worst Crown Royal of all time is Tennessee Smoke. However, it's got a dark blue bag with like silver. It's by far the coolest.
Yeah, I know what bag you're talking about. I've never had that. Sounds terrible.
It's absolute garbage. But I bought it. Well, I forced someone else to buy it just so I could have the bag, so I could bring my dice. Like, I'm a badass, and I like dropped it on the table, and they were like, "It's a funny thing. Certain things, nerds all of a sudden freak out about a Crown Royal bag in D&D. It's legit. Anyway, so you need those two. Absolutely need those two. Now, if you're going to some other things you might want that are in the realm of this is if you have a map, you might want a mini, right? So if your guy uses a hammer and he's this like cool looking dude, you might want a guy that looks like this, right? You can buy miniatures at your like local game haven. You can look on them online.
Did you bring any miniatures down here?
I did bring a couple, yeah. So I've got this one. He's kind of like a cool little barbarian. Obviously, he doesn't have a lot of armor, which is kind of nice. You can actually make them. There's a website called Hero Forge. You can make them online. If you have a 3D printer like I do, you just print them yourself, and it costs you like $7 plus whatever the filament is. Or you pay like $30, which is crazy, but still you can do it. And you have your own miniature. You paint it yourself. I think you can pay more to have it painted now because they kind of like upped it, but it's a good little thing to have your own character, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of when you put your character down, everybody sees your character as that. Because the one problem, especially if you don't dress up, which again, not a lot of people do, and I understand why they don't. If people see your character, that's how they see your character, right? So if I'm playing a barbarian and I describe him like this and I put down this miniature,
right,
they're going to see that hammer. They're going to see this beautiful chocolate dude who's fucking got this big hammer and is a badass, right? Where otherwise if I just describe that, they're not going to see it as much. Oh, speaking of miniatures, really quickly.
Okay.
This is the one that's on Stranger Things that they use as the Demogorgon, but that's not the point.
Is that not a Demogorgon?
No, Demogorgon's actually like the son of Satan. Is actually what a Demogorgon is.
Okay.
So in Stranger Things, they make it some creature that's just got these fly.
Yeah.
It's not that.
Yeah.
It is the son of Satan, and it's actually a really strong monster. Like at the levels they were at, they would have gotten wrecked. Honestly, I think it's like legitimately a CR 26, which means that you can't even get up that high, which means you would need more characters, which they only had 4 or 3, so it would have been pointless. Anywho, so those are the two things you need. The third is miniature to make your character like more memorable.
Sure.
We always have one that we used to call like the MVP. It was just a character that was like generic. You can always buy just a generic one and play as that, and it's fine. It's not a big deal. You don't need a miniature, even if you have a map. You could just have like, oh, hey, that's me, right? And I think that's fine. If you're going to get into it, I mean, buy a character or do whatever. So that's a good thing to have. So those are what you need as a player. After you have made your character, right? You've looked through all this stuff. You're looking through all of it. And you're like, hey, I'm going to play a samurai. I'm going to play a barbarian or whatever. You got to start looking. If you're just playing a one-off, you don't have to do a whole lot of this, which is actually pretty nice. One-offs are a good way to like get your character started. You can have people you can test out characters. Like if you're like, I don't know if I want to play a monk, you could try playing out a monk and you're like, that sucked a fatty. Like one of the which we'll talk about I'm going to talk about animes next time, just because things that honestly there's like Redo the Healer, there's a couple of them, and this actually was made me think about, if you're going to play a healer, a lot of guys don't like playing healers in D&D because all you're doing is or like bards suck when you're in battle because all you're doing is helping out other characters, right?
Right.
You're sitting there going like, and then I helped the paladin, so you end up not having a lot of healers, which is why I played a paladin a lot of my campaigns if I was playing with new people, because then you heal yourself and you don't heal anybody else. Selfish, but it's honestly it's a good thing, right? To be able to, so that way your character doesn't die. A lot of people don't like to play clerics; they don't like to play ones that heal. So that's something if you don't want to play a healer or you want to see how playing out a healer will be, because the crappy thing is when you're hoping your character dies so you can start a new character. That's not fun.
Right.
It's not fun for the DM who has to now, put a reason why your character's with this group, and it's just not a lot of fun. So testing them out on one-offs, which is like a one-off is a session that you play that means nothing, right? It's one night and you play it. It's kind of good to do that so you know if your character is going to be a lot of fun. That's a good thing. I think that's great. People don't really, that's a great way to know if you're going to want to play it. Then I start thinking of, okay, I get into it a little too much. So I play out my, I know, right? I know, not me. I have my character and everything they're going to do up to level 20 before we play the campaign. I know.
So okay, hold on a minute. How like if I'm regular Joe over here and I'm like, okay, and I sit down in your session and I'm like, well, my guy's level 20. How do you know any different?
So you start out at level 1, but I already have like the feats, which are ways that your character gets stronger. When you level up, you can add feats to your character, kind of like in a video game where you have like the tree to decide like what your character can do extra.
Okay, yeah.
D&D kind of has the same thing. It has these things called feats that add on to your character.
Okay.
I have that kind of planned out ahead of time. Now, don't get me wrong, a story thing could switch it that I'll have to redo my whole character, right?
Okay.
But for the most part, I have it set up so that if nothing different happens, I already have my character set up to this point. This is where I planned on them to go.
Okay.
It's just kind of like how you do if, like, I have my plans of what I'm going to be at 50.
Okay, so again, I could, as some new guy, be walking into yours, and if I found somewhere like, oh, this particular character that I'm going to play has already accomplished these feats, and he's a level 17.
So usually a DM tells you, though. So if you came into my session, right? Like you guys can check out our where we were playing. They're level 3, I believe. So if you were coming in, you'd say, "Hey, I want to be level 17." I'd be like, "Well, you're not." So I would give you guidelines of where your character to fit in, right? Because a level 17 would come in and wreck.
Okay,
you wouldn't even be needed. So I would tell you, "Hey, you're going to be level 3. Plan your character at level 3," and you would just go to your level 3. Boom, you're ready to go.
So would then is that something where like people that would watch, or I'm sorry, that would join you, is it typical or atypical that someone would join like mid-campaign and be like, okay, so everyone that's been with you, let's say they've been with you for 4 weeks right now, right? That's once a week, and they're up to a level, I don't know, 11.
Yeah.
Their character is. Would you join if that new person comes in? First of all, 2 questions: could they come in midweek, like, or mid-campaign like that? And secondly, if they did, where would they come in at? Do they have to start at the bottom or work their way up?
Nope.
How does that work?
I would. So me personally, I've done this a couple times. I actually bring them at the level everybody is. But I do. So again, this is another DMing thing. I do a little bit different. I don't do it by. So every monster you kill gives you experience.
Okay.
Right. I don't play with that because the problem is then you end up doing these. Certain monsters have higher XP, and so these characters can kind of either move really fast or really slow. And again, I think of it like a movie. So I want these characters to slowly build up and then there to be a climax, right?
Okay.
So I do it like I'll plan with the characters. It'll be like every 4 sessions you level up, right?
Okay.
So if that's once a week, every month you level up. That means by level or by a year, because usually I like to start out at level 3 because that way their characters are kind of like their own things. At level 3, you can get a specialty to your class.
Right.
So you're level 15. Now level 15 can kill most monsters, and you can create this elaborate like ending. So I like to play for about a year.
Okay. Oh, damn.
So and that gives you
long time.
So and that gives you about a year to get to level 15.
Okay.
So that's how I do it. So if a character, like let's say we were playing and you're like, hey man, can I join? And everybody was cool with it. And we were at level 11, I would say, hey, build a level 11 character and I'm going to add you. And I would talk to you as a player and say, hey, what's your character this? Hey, this is the campaign. How does your character fit in? We'd find a way for your character to fit in, and then it would ease into getting a part of this group, right? It was the same thing as we talked about last time, where when you are a DM, you're saying, hey, this is the ending of the campaign as far as like, hey, this guy's trying to bring hell on earth. Why would you be against that? And why are you a part of this group? Same thing that you would do, which means that they would accept you pretty quickly. So I do that. I already have that planned. They would come in at the same level, and everybody stays at the same level. The other plus to that is you don't have people going for kills instead of, and then all of a sudden it becomes like a video game where if you get the kill, you get more experience, or if you do this, you get more experience. Right. So you end up doing more that isn't, that, hey, well, really talking to people doesn't give you that much experience. However, if I kill a dragon and I do the most damage, I'll get more experience.
Right.
So I like to do it so that people can play characters who are just charismatic and enjoy. If you enjoy D&D for mostly like the talking with people, this is a good way that you don't get screwed because you made your character more about talking with people than you are doing damage, right?
Right.
However, when you are making your character, you should always make them overpowered, I think. A lot of people don't. A lot of people are like, no, I don't want a power game, as the thing is what it's called. I don't want to power game my character.
Wow.
And I'm like, well, because you're an idiot. I can't see a single reason why my character wouldn't want to be the strongest and the best.
In any game, isn't that like the ultimate goal is to be the most powerful?
Yeah, so if you play Dungeons and Dragons 5e, most characters stay fairly similar. You can do things that definitely like, this is another thing we'll talk about when you're making your character, probably in another podcast, but talking about different feats that put together make it really great. So there's one where if you have a glaive, which is a type of weapon, if you hit them which means you have 10 feet, if you hit them at 10 feet, they can't move. So a lot of characters will do that to keep them from going to attack you, right? It's a great thing. It's a great power move to do. I think you should do that because obviously you should always want your character super strong. Why wouldn't you? And 2, you don't get bullied by other characters, which is another big thing that I've noticed in some of my games and something I think people should kind of avoid. But there's a lot of times when people will do stupid things and they're like, what are you going to do? And you're like, well, my character could literally murder yours. In Pathfinder, if you guys ever play Pathfinder, the original Pathfinder, all the feats, you could make god level characters with, a couple feats. And so one of our assassin campaigns, a character would go to do something because they're one of those, barbarians that are like, well, I just run in. And that kind of pisses a lot of people off because they just do it and they ruin a whole lot of.
Like,
honestly, it ruins it.
I'm gonna go in and just wreck everybody's game and
exactly.
fun.
It ruins it for the DM. It ruins it for the players. So I had a buddy. He made his ranger like super overpowered, and he'd be like, I'll kill your character. Now again, I don't recommend getting into these type of fights. However, it was one of those things that I'm like, I never want to be in that. No character. I've never had a character since. Ever had a character be able to take my character one-on-one like it was nothing. You know what I mean? Like every time it's like, well, bro, depending on how the rolls go, like I could wreck your world. So something to think about, right? I power game a lot of mine. Because I always create mine really cool as far as story, right? I think you can think of if you're like, hey, these are the feats that are going to make mine overpowered, you can create a story to those feats and the reasons you took them, right?
Right.
And then it makes a great character. So if you're going to do that, I would do that. And then after that, look into the character and what it is, look into a background, right? Like I said, when I was a druid, I constantly was like, crying when I saw dead animals on the road. I wouldn't kill spiders anymore. So I might take it a little too far. So you don't need to take it too far, but at the same time, get into your character, know about him. If you're going to choose the samurai feat, you should know about samurai. We played with a guy who didn't know anything about samurais. He didn't know that they had like an ethic code and that they had all this stuff. So his character was just a person with a katana, which is not the definition of a samurai. So know your, because especially in D&D 5e and Pathfinder and earlier versions of D&D, they had like strict rules. Like if you were a paladin, you had to be there's different levels of like, so there's good, neutral, evil, and then there's lawful, chaotic, and neutral, or lawful, neutral, chaotic. And if you were a barbarian, you had to be chaotic whatever, which means that you don't abide by laws. Your character's mindset is not, well, I follow the laws. Where a paladin had to be lawful good, which means you had to be a good character and you had to abide by your own code, right?
Right.
So samurai is same type of thing. So, I mean, knowing your stuff so you don't look like an idiot is a good thing. It just helps you get into character, you know what I mean? Like, for me, when I played as a samurai, I would watch, like, The Seven Samurai, a great black and white movie. If you guys haven't seen it, definitely go check it out. Or The Last Samurai. Last Samurai is such a good movie. You ever seen it?
Yeah.
Tom Cruise?
Yep.
Ooh,
Yeah.
great movie.
So, but even if you don't want to spend the time to watch like a movie, there's plenty of internet out there that you can like.
Well, and actually, if you look at any of your characters, they describe of what most of them are like. So, like, if you look at your character, like, you're going to be like a barbarian.
Right.
They always have a paragraph at the front that's like, hey, this is what barbarians usually are, and you can kind of abide by that.
Okay.
Again, you don't always have to abide by it. I hate when people play bards like the sex god symbol of like a, you know, they're like, oh, constantly trying to hit on girls because it's just kind of, in my opinion, it's kind of annoying.
Yeah, I think you talked about that last time. How they do that, and it's
so you don't have to play
obnoxious.
bard like. However, I'll play a bard very much, you know, just a pure musician, Mozart type of thing, right?
Right.
So, and then again, if you're, I like to get characters or people or my inspiration for my characters, and I kind of go off of that. So, I always go back to my druid. So, I had a paladin, and he was kind of based off of Dante from the video game Dante's Inferno.
Okay.
So I had
Which
lot
you
of
mentioned is one of your favorites.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite characters. Period. I love that campaign. I love that character. So I had a lot off of him, but I had inspirations off of other stuff. But when I did, I watched videos again. You don't have to get into it as much as I do. I promise. Once you start playing, you're gonna want to. Once you get into a campaign, it's just kind of like great. Another one. I did a monk. And he was a drunken monk. So I watched Jackie Chan's Drunken Master and Drunken Master 2
I know that one.
all the time. And kind of got
them all the time, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so I got inspiration off of those like crazy. There's also Drunken Fist movie. I can't even remember what's. It's a great movie. Either way. So anyway, I looked at a lot of them and kind of watched them and got my inspiration from one of those. If you're going to get inspiration for a fighting character, did you see the new Mortal Kombat trailer?
Yes.
Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I am thrilled. I know a lot of people. The last one came out, the late 90s?
Mm-hmm.
Who cares? I loved it then. I love Mortal Kombat is one of my favorite, probably my favorite game of all time. And the fact that it's coming out with like updated CGI and
it looks, dude, Sub-Zero looks so freaking cool, dude.
Isn't he awesome?
Oh, he looks awesome, and I love that. I can't remember what his name is.
They use some like classic, like the classic video game taglines.
Yeah,
you know, I love it.
I can't remember the Japanese actor who plays Scorpion, but he is perfect.
He's awesome.
And when he's like, get over here, and I'm like, oh my God, dude, even that was great.
Yeah.
Sub-Zero's mask is awesome.
Yeah.
It was all great.
Well, then it has a feel of the last, I think it's Mortal Kombat 11.
Yeah.
Is the latest. It has a little bit of feel of that with some nostalgia of the beginning, which is So cool.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
so
dude.
excited for it. April 11th, I think.
26th
Oh, April 26th that comes out. I can't wait.
or April 16th. Sorry, it's April 16th.
Well, we're in the middle.
Yeah, yeah, we were right in the middle.
But
April 16th.
Either way, I cannot wait for that.
Yeah, no,
Stupid
it
show to
looks
come out.
amazing.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times, like I said, I'll if I see a video. So hold on, really quick. I don't know if I'm super excited about because I love the original Mortal Kombat movie. So number one was just amazing.
Yeah.
Shang Tsung, that guy
Yeah.
was great. Everybody in it was just amazing. I love Johnny
I thought it was-
Cage and his lines.
Yeah.
Those are $500 sunglasses, asshole. Boom! Kicks him in the face. I'm like, fuck yeah, that's great.
So stupid, but so wonderful.
If you guys didn't know, I mean, obviously you guys might. I'm like a Snapple. I'm going to be throwing facts at you. The reptile fight,
Yeah.
reptile fight. Well, one, I love the reptile because it
I
was.
love Reptile. He came in later on in the game series.
Yeah. Well, no. He's actually in the first one. He's actually a secret character that you fight.
Oh, that's right. He comes out. Yeah.
If you do a secret thing and you can actually fight him.
I don't know. Did he come out in the very one of the
Very
very
first one.
first is the arcade.
Yeah.
Where you're standing there. Did he come into that one? Okay.
You had to do a special thing to get to a fight to
Okay.
him.
Yeah.
But he was amazing because he was
Yeah.
the Green Ninja, right?
Yeah.
Plus, in the movie, he has that badass mask.
Right.
And
'Cause he
it's
spits
one
the
of the,
venom.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah,
such
you
a
gotta-
great fight in general. That fight was actually after production because they realized they needed a fight between them. They thought it was too
Right.
long without fights, so they brought in a reptile fight.
is awesome.
Amazing. That was like
That's
my
awesome.
favorite fight.
Oh yeah.
And that's actually Ray Park. Or no,
Oh.
is it? Or it's Scott Adkins. Damn it. I'm pretty sure it's Ray Park, but it might be Scott Adkins. Either way, it's a badass dude who fights as him. Great fight. Oh my god, it's amazing. Great movie
Scott
overall.
Who did you say was your other one? Your other guess?
I think it was Scott Adkins. Just look up who is Reptile in Mortal Kombat. I swear it's a badass guy. Maybe it's not. Obviously it's a badass guy because either way he's fight. But I swear it was like a cool dude.
It is a cool dude. Well, which one we got? Hold on, it's giving me like the video game. I don't. Okay, you're talking the movie,
Yeah.
right? Let me put that and let's see what that tells
Yeah, I'm
us.
probably wrong, but that's okay. Hey Jamie, could you look that up for us?
Sure, I'll get on it. Yeah. Jamie being me, video game, other media. I don't know. I'm all into I'm like it's been 7 seconds and I'm down this rabbit hole because I'm seeing these cool like art things that people have made and I'm just like, this is cool.
So
Keith Cook, Frank. Oh no, that's a voice.
Keith Cook sounds.
Keith Cook, yeah.
Yeah, Keith
he's
Cook sounds right.
some ninja dude.
Either
American
way.
martial artist he is. So
Okay.
I imagine that it's him.
Yeah. Anyway, never mind. Maybe it wasn't those two badasses, but it's another guy. Keith Cook. Anyway, like I said, it was Keith Cook, and Keith Cook is a badass guy. Great fucking movie. The second one,
It is.
don't wrong, story, garbage. But if you buy the DVD, they knew it was garbage because in the
Oh, yeah.
DVD, well, in the DVD it says fights only because they know that's all you're gonna want to watch. It's like 15 minutes long.
Right.
That is a rager.
Right, and that's where you're jumping to if you're able to just boop boop to the fight.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
give a shit about the story.
Thanks for that terrible story. But this new one, and I know we keep going back to it. So if you guys
No.
are bored, who cares?
It looks amazing.
This is Jay's
Is it-
podcast.
Is it because I haven't seen? Because I'm gonna be honest. When I saw Godzilla versus King Kong, I got all
Yeah,
excited too. Is it because I
yeah.
haven't seen an action movie in a really long time that's been good because of Corona?
No, because I there's plenty of people out there that would write in and review and tell you you're an idiot for even thinking this looks cool. Like one of my favorite scenes is when it's at the end of the trailer. Trailer spoiler alert is when Sub-Zero and Scorpion get in a fight. And he freezes him, and like his blood pops out, so he freezes his blood.
The blade.
And then
Yeah.
he stabs him, throws him into the ice again, and then I'm assuming that he tries to walk away, and Scorpion comes back and throws the spear. Get over here and throws
Yeah.
it back. Like it's all so cool.
It is so cool. They didn't really highlight as much Liu Kang, and I don't know who the other guy is because they gave like a name. Is that Liu Kang? I couldn't remember. And
No,
that's,
they gave everyone that's in it.
Yeah, but they give a kids. They're like, "Oh, my name is this," and I can't remember if that's also
yeah.
Liu Kang. Is that Liu Kang at the end?
It's like Connor or something.
Yeah, it's like something like that.
It was something random. I
It
don't
was
remember.
a don't wrong. I'm going to watch the hell out of that thing. That
yeah.
looks amazing.
Yeah. So the most important person that I want to see in this is if they have Kitana.
So they do show Melina for a quarter of a second.
Too. Yeah.
So they show Melina, so I've got to think that they show Kitana.
That's all I'm asking.
So
for.
the only thing is,
Just,
I bet
can
you.
I have a Melina Kitana fight? Please?
Yeah, right. In mud or oil, whatever.
Why is it raining?
Yeah. Oh, that's weird. Take off your clothes. I would watch the two guys, Sub-Zero and Scorpion, fight naked. They're beautiful men.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see. Just Liu Kang
Yeah.
fight.
Well, and when he does the thing, you see the fire. This is all spoilers, bitches. They show the
go
fire
watch the
dragon. I'm like,
trailer,
okay,
yeah.
this looks. So
Yeah.
there was. I don't know if you ever watched. There's actually a YouTube series where they made like a real life Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
That was sick, and I was hoping that this movie would kind of go along that. So once he did the fire
Has it
dragon, I'm
come
like,
up?
okay, it's not going to be that. But
Yeah.
I mean, both of them are amazing.
I don't know. So here I am sitting over here trying to just like produce and help this podcast continue, but dude, I'm geeking out over the Mortal Kombat.
Yeah,
movie.
dude, the Mortal Kombat is amazing. Well, and I think if you watch those type of movies and
Yeah.
get like character motivation from them, right?
Yeah.
This is where
Yeah.
you kind of there's a reason why I make my characters OP, but then I downplay them to certain things. So if I'm like playing a Sub-Zero character and I'm playing like a wizard or a warlock, and they get a little bit of magic, I'd make them all ice spells, right? Because I'm making this like badass character that fights with an ice sword and all this other garbage.
So because you could be like playing D&D, you could be human, you could be normal, you could be whatever. One that I thought that they highlighted at the very beginning of the Mortal Kombat, which is really cool because I feel like he never got his due justice in the games or the movies, was Jax.
Yeah.
And in this one, it looks like it's heavily centered, at least the beginning.
MK10 and MK11 focus a lot on Jax and Jax's daughter. What's her name?
I don't remember, but
Jacqueline?
I think it is.
Jacqueline
Yeah.
Briggs.
So they get. I mean, they're pretty creative.
Yeah, no,
with
they're
the
pretty
names.
creative with their names. Scorpion. But
but in this one, it's kind of cool how his arms are taken and then they're put back on and the forearm dude that
dude, Goro looks freaking sick. Because I will admit the '90s one for the times looked amazing, and I love that.
And
but he looks huge.
But I know you remember when you would play the game and you finally got to him, and then he was just like incredible, just pick you up and beat you, and you throw your controller. And then your mom gets mad at you because it's actually connected to the console that flies across.
Yeah, exactly.
Never happened to me, but I'm excited, man. I'm excited for
looks
this game.
Amazing.
Or the show.
I'm gonna be honest. I still like the original Shang Tsung more than I like the Shang Tsung that was in that. That was the only part I was disappointed on. Is I was because again the guy who played Shang Tsung before, I can't remember his name, but he's still alive. He's old. Just
put him in it.
Recast him in it.
Yeah.
Dude.
Why would it matter?
Doing nothing. Dude, it looks amazing. Like I said, I'm gonna be honest. I got excited about Godzilla versus King Kong because I remember that back in the day, and I used to watch a lot of the Godzilla movies, and I'm like, yes, and I'm like, that's when I realized I'm like, maybe I'm just getting excited because I haven't seen an action movie in a really long time, and then I saw this Mortal Kombat, and I'm like, dude, I'm going to see that. I'm gonna get drunk and I'm gonna beat the crap out of my friends. Like that's just what I'm gonna do. It looks amazing, and and when he makes the sword out of ice, it's just so much better than the old ones.
Yeah, well the graphics and everything,
and
it's
the times,
so much
right?
better. So to try and get us back on track of what we're supposed to be talking about, which is characters, and I suppose we're there, but when you are DMing. And I come in and I'm going to be a character.
Yeah.
Do you expect me to take on the role as that character and like act the part, be the part, or do you not care so much if you're the DM? Do you want to be the DM character more? Like
yeah.
what do you expect?
You're not really a character as far as the DM. The reason why I would like for characters to be in that is they're more predictable, which means I can make certain things happen for you to make your story better, right? So I always try to, as a DM, give everybody like a couple of sessions or a session where their character's like the highlight. Well, if your character isn't consistent, I can't do that. Right? If you don't have a backstory to your character, you don't have anything. One of my favorite things to do as a DM is, as far as characters too, is after like 2 months, I like to call what we call like a campsite session where you're by the campfire, you've been with these people for a couple of months, and you tell them, hey, this is my backstory. And you do you talk with the DM and you build these like little stories that you're telling by the campfire that give more insight to your character, right? So you have your backstory flushed of why your character acts the way they do.
Sure.
So for my monk, for instance, his brother-in-law killed his wife and kidnapped his daughter, right? So it gave him this like he doesn't really trust people because even his family had screwed him over once he started getting more powerful, so he would hide some of his abilities from even some of his friends because he didn't want them to think he was more powerful and try to take him over, because that's what his brother-in-law did. He didn't want to get as close characters, and he kind of developed, and that's the great thing about it, is obviously your character has these like things that either make him bad or make him good, and you kind of develop them as a character. So eventually he treated these people as his family, and it went really well. I hate to say, like, a part of that was the DM, because I was actually even the DM. I was a co-DM, so I was a minor DM.
Okay.
And my buddy was the actual DM, and he orchestrated it so well that, you know, with these stories, everybody came together, and it was this great thing that everybody became a part of. Every character felt more connected to each other by the end, and it was actually a really good story. And I mean, it had its downfalls, but I mean, it was really good otherwise. And so we dealt with all of that. It was kind of good. You have this campfire session that kind of delves more into your character. The reason I like it is they're consistent. So if your character is kind of sneaky, you can kind of play into that, and it's not weird when your character does something sneaky. And again, it gives your character more life, and so more people are invested in it. So I would prefer people to, I mean, again, I'm not going to tell people no or whatever, because people change just as we all do, right? But you can totally I think that you should pick the kind of character you're going to be and then play as that character and have fun with it. And
fair enough.
So yeah. So again, getting your background, kind of knowing your character, why he does the things that they do. You know, if your character is so another one that was actually really important, that your character had to act the way they acted, that actually didn't go into fruition because of how people didn't act as their characters. So I always like to do one that's like 3 or 4 campaigns in, that's the Hell campaign, where you go to Hell and you'll meet a lot of the old characters again.
Right.
But during that, I always have everybody choose a sin, and everybody choose a different sin. And so your character's flaw is supposed to be that sin, right?
Okay.
So we had one that was lust, one that was pride, one that was we had a bunch of them. All you can look up the 7 deadly sins. Sloth, gluttony. Oh yeah, the gluttony, sloth. We had a bunch of them. So we all had our own thing. Mine was betrayal. Just Corona kind of messed up our campaign. Not the point. But when we were doing it, one of my buddies chose lust.
Okay.
But then we had a bard in our thing, and the bard kept doing lust, and so it kind of took away. But he wasn't. So the bard wasn't doing his own sin. He was just doing lust. So then we had to kind of move around all the stuff where.
Was he doing it on purpose to throw things off? What was the point there?
I don't know if it was pure stupidity or if he was doing it on purpose.
Okay.
It could have been one or the other. But the only thing is, it kind of messed up a campaign because, or his sin, because now all of a sudden we're having the other guy having to do other sins, and it wasn't how he wrote his character, right? And
Right.
if the crap thing is like, obviously this guy, the bard's trying to sleep with everybody. Well, the only way for the other guy to have the lust sin was for him to rape people, and he didn't want to make his character a rapist, as nobody wants to do,
No.
right?
No.
Because you can do anything, and this is another thing as a like player don't do. I mean, obviously don't rape. I
Yeah.
think we
Yeah.
can all
That's
agree that.
yeah.
That's not what I
yeah,
was
that's-
going to say, but that's a
You
thing.
feel like you have to say it for
Yeah.
some reason? Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
Obviously you can do anything you want as a character, but there's certain things you just shouldn't do. Like, don't be a dick, right? Like, I think it's pretty
Right.
nice. Just be a nice person.
Mhm.
But so you have a lot of guys again who want to take all the loot, which is just annoying. You have guys that rush in because they want to be the first one to. They want to be the one that kills everybody or does something fancy.
Right.
But don't. I mean, just don't be a dick. So when you're playing your character, just be friendly with people and actually, if you're told, if you're not even you're told, if you decide as a group, like, hey, this is what I'm going to do, just do it so that it doesn't ruin other people's fun. Like, it's not
Exactly.
that hard. And make things fit your character. If your character was going to be lustful and you kind of knew that about your character, bring that up before so that way people can move things around. Again, so as a DM, if I want to make sure your character does something cool, you're like, hey, man, my character wants to dismember heads and like carry heads on his horse or something like that. I would give you chances to take cool people's heads so that you can have all these cool trophies, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So the more you talk to your DM about stuff that you like, the more likely they are to do it. I want it to be.
Is that a thing that you would have, like a conversation you would have with your DM beforehand, or is that something
Yeah.
you do like on a fly?
No, I would do it. I usually talk to them about it. Like, well, I usually say like, hey, this is what I like. This is what I'd like to see my character do. These are things that I'm
Okay.
going to kind of get into. Some of it is on the fly. Like if I see a character, he constantly, one of my assassin characters, he would always take people's eyes. And the reason he would take people's eyes is he would put them in jars, and then he would have them centered around his bedroom so they all saw him. Because he was very narcissistic, and so
Sure,
he would,
I get it. Yeah,
he would
yeah.
get naked and watch all of these eyes watch him once he was done with his mission.
This was one of your characters?
Yeah.
Did you show up to the session naked?
No, I didn't.
Damn.
I would always explain it. Everybody kept telling me to put my clothes on, and yeah. So anyway, it was a great time. But so one of the DM, he realized that I did that all the time. So one of the characters he made with these like, magical eyes, and they ended up doing something, right? That another character could see through these things. And so it kind of made like a fun thing later. So some of them you can kind of do on the fly and
Right.
or you can kind of plan for without the characters. I like to, before I even do a campaign, do like a painting session. So if they have their own characters, we go and paint them, and we kind of get together. We talk about a lot of things.
Okay.
Some of it's just one-on-one, some of it's not, and you can kind of plan all that stuff. I think it's a lot of fun because you
Kind
again
of get you into it a little
yeah,
bit.
it gets you into it. You get to plan. Again, for me, it's all about the players, right? If one
Okay.
player wants to do, we had this argument as well. One player wanted more made up items in the game, right? He wanted items that were broken and or made up in the game.
Okay.
Well, and we played with 7 people. Well, if 6 people don't want to do that, I think you got to go for the greater good.
Yeah,
gotta go with
you
the
got to
greater
go
good,
with
right?
the majority on that one. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
You do with the greater good. I want everybody to have fun. If one person is not making it fun for everybody else, they will take it out on that. As a player, another thing is to realize the difference. And you should do this with everything. And I think I've talked about this before on the podcast, but you should always do things. You should always realize that there's a difference between the person and the character, right? So if a
Right,
character
right.
makes theirs they're very prideful. So the whole time they're playing very arrogant, you shouldn't hate that person being like, what an arrogant ass. You should realize it's
Right.
part of their character, right? At the same time, realize that people are not going to do that. So if you're a dickhead during the game, they're going to hate you as a person because it's kind of hard to differentiate that.
Right. I think I talked about it maybe last week's episode where it was like there was a couple and the husband and wife couple, and the wife acted like a total bitch to her sister-in-law, and sister-in-law's like, well, you're a whore, you know, and she's like, this is my character.
Yeah.
I'm just in character. And the sister-in-law couldn't
Differentiate
get behind that and was like, no, you're just a bitch.
Yeah. And so, and again, a lot of it's Dungeons and Dragons, guys. Yeah. It shouldn't be drama, right? You should be having fun.
It's a game.
Yeah, if you're having problems,
we're here to play.
Talk it out. It's a fun game. If you need a break from it too, take a break, right? There's nothing wrong with taking a break from it. Some people feel too much stress with it because they want to like do it. That's wild. I know.
To me, that anyone would feel stress. Number one, feel stress playing a game. I get there are intense games, but feeling stress over this game?
Yeah.
Because I know you teased it a little bit, but if you go over to the Overplay podcast on YouTube, there is a video there of a live session that we did last week with, and it was all very lighthearted and fun. Everybody I didn't see anybody having any kind of stress over there.
No, and that's the thing. This is one of the only times when you always hear the phrase, don't hate the player, hate the game. This is the opposite. Don't hate the game, hate the player. If someone's making it not fun and they're doing it on purpose, like
it's because of the player.
Yeah, it's because of the player. This is a fun game. This is a fun game where you get to play somebody else for the X amount of hours you're playing, right? If you could play for 4 hours, you are this different person that you get to play for 4 hours in a fantasy world that's a ton of fun, and it really is. When it's fun, it's some of the most fun I've ever had. As silly as it sounds, I mean, anybody that plays understands this, and anybody who hasn't doesn't.
Right.
It legitimately is a lot of fun because you're playing this different thing.
Well, we had so we did about an hour last week, and we had a couple newbies playing that never played before. One of those newbies being an adult, and after he couldn't say enough about how much fun he had.
Yeah. He was like, "Oh, I could do that again." Like I totally understand. And that's how I think. I think that's how everybody who plays immediately gets, because you're in this fantasy world and it's a lot of fun, and you get a player, especially when you play with. I mean, he was playing with a bunch of kids, right?
Right.
When you play with a bunch of your friends and you're making these jokes and it's this great time, it's legitimately one of the funnest things, and I think that's how everybody should play it. And that's the reason why I'm talking about this in a podcast. Is I legitimately have a lot of fun playing this, and I legitimately think everybody would have fun playing this. So go out, get a group together. If you know who I am, get me together. I always do this for all of my friends. I'll offer to play D&D and like, hey, let's get together. If you can get a group of 4 people, not including me, so me and 4 others,
right?
I'll totally DM for you and play. It's a ton of fun. Set it up. If not, you can always get online and try to find somebody to DM, or you could start playing again. Again, we talked about this last time. If you want to know how to do it, go back to that last thing. So, obviously, if you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe. It's going to help me out. Please tell all your friends. If you're on Facebook, tell everybody, post it, share it. If you're on Twitch, follow. I mean, if you're super kind, subscribe. You can always do that little Amazon thing. Throw some money my way, because then I can do more, right? Come on, people. Anyway, no, but seriously, have fun. Tune in next time. Like I said, next time we're going to be talking about animes and ones that are close to that, or like ones that are fantasy related and kind of fun stuff like that, just to be a little bit different. And then we'll go back on it and we'll start talking about other things. So, enjoy, guys, and see you next time.